flow. 69. Now it's time for new, believable people, and we must do it. If we don't control insiders, this will be over and over. To lead by an any big fat love, find common ground to halt the spread of lies, and we must do it big fat love, find common ground to halt the spread of lies, and any America first, America first, non-fatal. We want to build a much better, believable people, and we must do it non-fatal. Communication very much higher. America first. To lead by an any insiders fighting for insiders. Time to stop. Insiders fighting for insiders. More of insiders fighting for insiders. Time to stop. Insiders fighting for insiders. America first. Love the flow. 69. Now it's time for new, believable people, and we must do it. If we don't control insiders, this will be over and over. To lead by an any big fat love, find common ground to halt the spread of lies, and we must do it big fat love, find common ground to halt the spread of lies, and any America first, America first, non-fatal. We want to build a much better, believable people, and we must do it non-fatal. Communication very much higher. America first. To lead by an any insiders fighting for insiders. Time to stop. Insiders fighting for insiders. More of insiders fighting for insiders. Time to stop. Insiders fighting for insiders. America first. Love the flow.
They tell you my lives, why did we all? He can do my lives, why did we all?
What can compare with the beautiful sound? What can compare with the beautiful sound? What can compare with the beautiful sound? What can compare with the beautiful sound?
What you do?
What can compare with the beautiful sound? What can compare with the beautiful
What you do?
What can compare with the beautiful sound? What can compare with the beautiful sound?
Don't you remember? You could. Don't you remember? Don't say you could. You could. Don't say. Don't you remember? You could. Don't you remember? Don't say you could. You could. Don't. In my lives, why did we all? In my lives, now the other one. In my lives, why did we all? In my lives.
What can compare with the beautiful sound? What can compare with the beautiful sound? What can compare with the beautiful sound? What can compare with
How's it going, everybody? Did that nobody is here, but I'm gonna still talk like they are.
What you do?
Give me 1 second.
What you do?
Alright, we're right back to it.
Don't you remember?
I'll turn down this music a little bit more. Oh, mute it.
You could. Don't you remember? You could. Don't you remember?
So, I just wanted to discuss something near and dear to my heart. The recent assassination of Charlie Kirk. It's really crazy because this is a huge terrorist attack that just happened. Wanted to go over it with everybody. Let y'all know what I have to say about it. So, thought we could start off with this CNN article. Just kind of look through all the information, go through it together. So personally for me, I first heard about it when I was going out to dinner on the 10th. And it was quite upsetting, to say the least. I've been watching Charlie since I was like 14. And so, for a long time, he's been somebody that I checked in on, seen what he was up to, always heard about him making the rounds. Very interested in what he was doing with TPUSA. I like how he was spreading the gospel, how he was trying to bring America to not only just a better place of conservatism, but trying to make us talk to each other more. Because that's what's important. When you stop talking, that's when dangerous things happen, like this. The less we talk to each other, the more that is going to lead to violence and chaos. And anybody who loves this country does not want that. This isn't really what I was looking for. But yes, they did hold a vigil for him. I was trying to find just the initial story, but it seems like that's not here. But what I remember is Charlie was doing one of his things that he always does. He was trying to talk to college students, trying to talk to people that agreed with him, people that disagreed with him, talking to people who hate him, people who love him, and treating everybody with respect as he always did. And somebody asks him a question about Second Amendment rights and about mass shootings and stuff. And just as he's giving his response, he then gets shot in the throat. And that was just horrible. And I remember they were looking for the suspect for a while. It took them a little bit to find the suspect. Which is crazy. Wish that they would have been able to find him in just like 3 seconds. But I understand that it's not that simple.
Okay, here we go.
So
Here we go.
I gotta line up my chat screen better, but that's okay. I'll do that next time. But yeah, they were looking for the suspect for a while, and there were a lot of conspiracy theories going around, which we don't need right now. We don't need conspiracy theories, we just need the truth. Another thing that Charlie fought for. Yeah, yeah, it's just a sad state of how things are going right now. This should not be something that ever happened, and it's disgusting, to say the least. I'm glad that they did catch their, who likely did it. I feel confident in what our police agencies did in securing who they think it was. Yeah, it's just tragic, because not only is it, you know, a murder, but it was a terrorist attack. So, yeah, straight up terrorism, you know. And it was 24 years and less than 1 day and 24 years after September 11th. It's just a sad state of affairs that we're caught in here. I want to direct us over to start off with Isaiah 5:20. I like the King James Version. 5:20, Isaiah says, "Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter." And I feel like that is very much where we are in the world today. Because we see a video like this, and Charlie's Kirk murdered celebrated by sick, ignorant leftists. I can tell you personally, I've been on Facebook and Snapchat and other things like that, and I've seen people talking just these disgusting things that they have to say about a man's death. And I think that's insane. We should not be celebrating anybody's death ever. It's always a sad thing when somebody dies. And to make it even more tragic, I heard, I don't know for sure if this is true, but well, I know his wife and kids were there in the audience. But what I'm unsure of is I heard that his daughter heard the gunshot, got scared, and went to go run to her father. The first thing on that little girl's mind was running to Charlie, not realizing that the shot killed her father. So she has nobody to run to now. And that's just heartbreaking. That is awful. No, it's terrible first off that somebody loses their life, but then to take it even further, you know, there's now a grieving wife, 2 grieving children. I don't know if his parents are alive, but grieving parents, grieving aunts and uncles, grieving nephews and nieces, grieving, I don't know if he had siblings, but grieving sisters and brothers. Just a whole, you set a whole group of people up to have to feel pain just in his, you know, personal life with his family. Not to mention all the people that looked up to him, all the people that watched his streams and stuff. And, you know, really cared about what he had to say. And then, you know, again, taking a man's life for no reason. Let's check out this video. I haven't seen it myself.
Alex, great to see you as always.
I love Alex. He's hilarious.
Ready to give us a tune, but it's a very sad occasion. Normally,
Pop up this quality more.
But today is just horrific. The events of the death of Charlie Kirk, the assassination. You knew Charlie well. You spent time, more importantly, you spent a lot of time.
But yeah, I just find it insane how people can celebrate any of this.
You speak to people.
It's truly, truly disgusting. Some of the things being said.
Amazing personality and the work you do. Who can fill Charlie Kirk's shoes, and what was Charlie like as a friend?
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to get into what I want it to get into, necessarily. But I've been seeing some very disgusting posts, just being happy that he's dead, celebrating it. And it's insane. We should never celebrate anybody's death. I did not like Obama. I did not like Biden. I did not like Kamala. But I would never celebrate their death if they were to die. That's crazy person talk. what crazy people do. Oh, and here's a story that I forgot to bring up. So, yeah, so, right here on Politico, they tried to hold a moment of silence, and Lauren Boebert tried to do a spoken prayer for Charlie. And the Democrats started booing. They wouldn't allow this to happen. Which, these are supposed to be the normal people in... And they're supposed to be the most normal people in our country, yet they're acting like the craziest. How can you boo a moment of silence, especially as a lawmaker? You're supposed to be the most normal, most regulated people in this country. You're supposed to be able to determine laws for all. But you're gonna boo somebody's moment of silence all because you disagree with what they said? Meanwhile, you're also in charge of upholding free speech? That's insane. Yeah, they tried to call for a moment of silence, and Democrats were just booing them, not allowing it to happen, which I find to be insane. Here's this video that I found on it. Let's see if this has any substance to it. Let me pause the music real quick.
The chair would ask that all members present in the chamber and those in the gallery please rise for a moment of prayer for Charlie Kirk and his family.
I wanted to take a moment of silence as well.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Colorado rise?
And so, Lauren Boebert is now asking for a prayer. And because she asked for prayers, now everybody wants to scream and argue.
Let's wait a minute. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. Shh. The House will be in order. Shh. The House will be in order. We will join prayer right after this, okay?
This is insane.
The chair lays before the House a communication.
All because they wanted to pay respect to Charlie. These people that are supposed to be the most normal people in our society are freaking out like maniac. Can't be doing this. You're supposed to be the most normal people. I understand regular civilians freaking out, not doing a moment of silence. I mean, it's still disgusting and bad, but I understand that. These are supposed to be the most normal people in our society, and they're doing things like this. That's crazy. I've yet to read this. I wanted to go over this with you guys. The White House put out a statement on Charlie. So I wanted to read through it with you guys, see what it's about. Maybe I don't know if this is, no, this is not what I was looking for. Let me see if I can find it. Sorry. Here we go. This is what I wanted. Yeah, so honoring the memory of Charlie Kirk. As a mark of respect for the memory of Charlie Kirk, the authority vested in me as President of the United States by the Constitution of the United States, I hereby order that the flag be flown at half-mast. So that's very important. Paying massive respect to, again, not only a murder, but a terrorist attack. You know, the US was terrorized on that day, and they should be flying their flags at half-mast. And so yeah, there's that statement there. But then I wanted to get into this. I just wanted to watch some of his best moments. Because the guy was hugely influential. And something that I find really important is no matter who came up to the microphone, whether it was the most out of their mind, crazy liberal, or if it was somebody who agreed with every word Charlie said, he would always treat them with utmost respect. He would never disrespect them. He would try to have a civil, normal conversation with them and show them love, care, and respect. So let's watch some of this. I don't know if we're going to watch the whole thing, but let's watch some.
Feel proud of yourself for debating college kids who are unprepared to speak in front of an audience like yourself. Hold on. You're 30 years old. We can agree you're 30 years old, right?
But you see how hostile this girl is, and I bet you Charlie will not be the
I am a
same.
voter.
Oh,
I'm a
so
registered
I
voter.
vote and you vote. So I'm talking to voters of this country that will determine the future of Western civilization. That's what I'm doing here today. Yeah? Wait, hold on. How is it any different than a professor talking to you?
Then a professor talking to you? Who are you?
Well, important enough for you to come up to a microphone.
You see the difference in respect between those two? The respect was so different. The girl gets up there and she's mad. She has an agenda to get out there. Meanwhile, Charlie's just sitting there. He just talks nicely. He talks calmly to her. And, you know, it's just a civil conversation.
A fascist, and then like,
Okay. How am I?
Sorry.
Let's go through this. How am I a fascist?
dude, like
Can you name one thing I believe that's fascist?
you believe that like you on.
Yeah, and these people constantly disparaging him and calling him names and stuff that have no evidence to back it up ever. They never have evidence to back it up. I want to claim he's a fascist, but right now he's letting you speak on a microphone. If he was a fascist, he'd be just on a microphone by himself, telling you what to do, forcing you to do it. But instead, he's encouraging conversation. Conversation is not fascism. That's the bedrock of democracy. Democracy starts with conversation.
But
I'm such a bad fascist. I let the people who disagree in
Just-
open mic to talk to me for 2 hours
Yeah.
uninterrupted.
So exactly what
I'm an
he's
awful
just said.
fascist.
That's what I was saying.
I'm more like a free speech liberal of the 1970s, not a fascist.
But I just want to say Turning Point USA is a evil company that was funded by thousands of fracking companies, and that
well,
just
no, it's not thousands, but we do have some frackers that give us money. But we
yeah,
have-
and then
we have-
all it is
but I don't know
making
how
the
we went
rich
from
more rich.
fascism to fracking.
That's
But-
all it is. That's all it is.
Okay, again, I'm happy to have a debate. I can see you're getting kind of fired up.
I'm sorry.
So, but why are we evil? Like, we're having a nice discussion.
Because
all of a
you
sudden you're,
want.
And like back to what I was saying earlier, the guy, he's so upset, and Charlie's just like, let's just talk. Let's just have a nice, calm conversation.
I
you're
don't
calling me like
because
a
it seems
fascist.
like you just want the rich get even more rich. Like
we haven't talked about the rich at all. I mean, so you don't even know my positions on this stuff.
Under no circumstance ever should a man ever let a woman pay for a date, or you should
Ever?
split ever. No circumstance.
Even on the third, fourth, fifth.
What if it's
What?
the
No,
first
no, a
date
woman
and you're
should
just
never
not
pay
into
for
it?
anything.
Okay, well let me.
Period.
Well, let me. Okay, so
what kind of world are we living in?
Well, hold on.
You showed a
If
lot of
I
respect towards
agree with
women.
you, if I'm dating a girl, I would pay for everything.
Everything.
Yeah, everything. However, I could see for other people that might be in a different financial position, you know, you pay for 10 dates and then she's like, you know what, I want to treat you.
Well, that's
I think
that's,
that's
that's,
so sweet,
totally different. No, what we're what we're talking about is like, oh, we're gonna alternate. Like, well, what's you're serious and she wants to take you out to something for a nice dinner, and you might. By the way, if you have the intent to marry, you're already like kind of blending finances. Like, I get that psychologically, but like if you're like, oh, we'll take turns. Like, oh, well, you know, you pay this time, I
So
pay this time.
what's your advice to a girl who the guy she's currently seeing, he says that?
Oh, do not marry that man.
But here's the thing. I feel like they should always
break up.
offer.
Great.
But they should offer. They should pull out the credit card.
The woman? Of course not.
Just to offer.
No.
It's a nice gesture.
No. By the way, no. This is feminism. Feminism is that you have to be this like self-independent. This is not a nice gesture. It's you trying to be like egalitarian. No.
Charlie did not
This
like
woman should
feminism.
want to be-
I don't either. But just as he did, I hold massive, care, respect, and love towards women. And I feel like, personally, I think rejecting feminism is showing love towards women. Feminism has tricked women into doing some very awful things, like killing their children for self-aggrandizement, thinking of themselves first, not thinking of other people. It leads to higher divorce than we've ever seen, and that's crazy.
provided for. In fact, you should have an expectation that you as a woman are so important and so critical and so necessary and beautiful that it shouldn't even be a question.
Do you view democracy as an American value?
You hear the way that he just spoke about women, you're so beautiful, you're so amazing, etc. And then they're going to sit there and say that he was anti-woman, he didn't like women. But that's far from the truth.
Important to the fabric of this country?
No. Where is democracy in the U.S. Constitution?
Oh, okay. So
No, hold on. Where is the word democracy?
I don't think the word democracy is in the Constitution.
So where is the word democracy in any of the founding fathers?
A lot of the founding fathers had extremely elitist viewpoints around who should.
Hold on.
Hey, Lady Geckofoot, how's it going?
You said the word democracy, so I want to get back to our roots.
Yes.
Where is democracy mentioned? In the Federalist Papers, the Constitution, or the Declaration?
I think it's good that this country has moved away from things that were explicitly believed by the founding
in the Federalist
fathers.
Papers, and it's mentioned negatively as a problem. So you asked me, is democracy a fundamental American value? I say no.
Okay.
Because I go back to our roots. And Hamilton, Madison, and Jay.
Oh, I know that Hamilton was anti-democracy.
Hold on,
these
let me
people
finish.
thought that people should be owned as
I want to be
property.
clear. I am pro-representative government, but I'm not pro-democracy. That's a big difference, and that distinction's important. But you asked very specifically.
Yeah, democracy is the rule of the mob. Mob rule.
It never should be, because what is democracy? Democracy is majority rule no matter what. That there's no provisions of checks and balances, no inalienable rights, no separation of powers, pure if the majority gets it, the majority wants it as quickly as possible.
I don't advocate pure democracy. I do understand that we live in a representative, like we live in a republic, and
Alright, let's move on from this. Let's get into some other things. Actually, I think this might have been what I was looking for earlier. The White House put out a...
to say,
gosh, this is loud. Sorry if I'm blasting out your guys' ears.
to do something about it. Take that risk. Take that leap of faith.
But the White House put out a tribute to Charlie, and I find that just crazy. He was so influential that the White House is doing things for him.
All things for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you.
Hey Storm, how's it going?
You are here to make somebody else's life better.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lady Geckofoot. I think that we should be able to discuss our differences and opinions. All it is at the end of the day is an opinion. Charlie wasn't the dictator of the United States. He didn't speak and it became law. He in fact encouraged discussion. He encouraged debate. And for somebody to try to take his voice away is crazy. But what I'd like to see is that although they tried to take his voice away, his voice is now louder than ever. Every time I go on Facebook, I see many, many posts about him every time I go on Snapchat, I see that there's Snapchat stories about him. Everywhere that I look, all I'm seeing is his face, seeing his words, seeing people post words of appreciation for him. And that's something that has truly been warming up my heart, is the fact that they tried to silence him, and all they did was make him 10 times louder. He's louder than he's ever been. Yeah, and not only would he debate anyone, but he'd always debate them with respect and kindness. He would never say, "Oh, you're a stupid leftist, nobody wants to hear what you have to say." He would say, "Oh, let's listen to what you have to say. You know, I disagree with you, and I think you're wrong, but let's hear what you have to say. Let's hear you out." Now, something that I find disturbing and kind of scary is, so this is Google search trends. You can see how much a certain word or words are searched up on Google over like different periods of time. So you can do like the past hour, and then apparently you can go all the way back to 2004. And so I wanted to see how much is Civil War trending. So it's following, you know, roughly a 50% search frequency. Which is normal, you know, people researching the American Civil War, researching other civil wars around the world. But then you see this on September 10th, the searches skyrocket. September 11th, it's at 100% search capacity. And there's been lots and lots of talk is America leading into a civil war? I really hope not. I must say that to begin with. But I am scared that maybe we are. I'm very fearful that we might be in what I like to call our Bloody Kansas moment. If you're unaware, Bloody Kansas was an event that happened before the American Civil War. And in the state of Kansas, they were unsure if they were going to support slavery or not support slavery. And what happened is there were roving gangs of pro-slavery people and anti-slavery people roaming around Kansas, just slaughtering each other. And then right after Bloody Kansas, you see a few years later, the Civil War breaks out. You know, Americans killing other Americans. And I'm very fearful that we might be entering that now. Which would be really scary. I don't want my daughter growing up in a civil war. That's insane. Yeah, I completely agree, Gecko. The extremism has taken off way too much, and as I was saying earlier, I don't think you were here for it. Like, the extremists are even still going crazy after he died. He's dead and they're posting like, "Oh, I'm so happy he died. It was such a good thing that he died." Meanwhile, it's not. Like, again, a man lost his life. People who looked up to him lost him, and his family is now heartbroken. All I've been thinking about is his poor little children. And that's just so saddening to me. But before we get into that, something I'm gonna turn everybody's attention to that I just think it's cool, if it will load, is right now, Vice President JD Vance is okay, it's not gonna load, I guess. So right now, Vice President JD Vance is hosting Charlie Kirk's show. Let's see if I can pull that up for you guys. Give me a second. But I find that to be really crazy. Like, again, they tried to silence this guy, but now the vice president, the second most powerful person in this country, is now hosting his show. And I just tuned in, and RFK Jr. is there too. Let's bring that into view for you guys. And yeah, Vice President JD Vance remembers Charlie Kirk. Like that's wonderful. I'm so glad that all these like very important people to the administration are standing up for him. Not only because they were friends with him, not only because he agreed with them, but it was a terrorist attack. The United States faced a terrorist attack. And it's very important that we show that it was a terrorist attack. You know, it reminds me a lot of like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s shooting when he died. Another very influential person who did nothing but speak. All he did was speak what he felt was right in his heart, and he gets shot to death. And now we see it repeat again. Yeah, and even if he was a murderer or a criminal, I mean, he still doesn't necessarily deserve to die. He deserves to go through the, you know, proper legal processes. He deserves to go to court, deserves to, you know, face jail time and possibly the death penalty as administered by the state. He doesn't deserve to just get shot in the neck by a random lunatic. But here's some slightly breaking news 7 hours ago. Apparently the suspect's not cooperating with authorities. This is the governor. So his alleged killer is not cooperating with authorities and has not confessed to carrying out the shooting. Tyler Robinson was taken into custody 33 hours after Kirk was shot dead. So Fox, that's the governor, said he told several Sunday morning shows that investigators were still trying to establish a motive around Mr. Robinson for cooperating. And yeah, again, so he was speaking at Utah Valley University for Turning Point when he was hit in the neck. And that's another part too. It was part of his American Comeback Tour. I believe it was his first or second show in the American Comeback. And so he didn't even get to, you know, finish out the tour. He barely even got to do the tour because lunatics had to be lunatics. And he was deeply indoctrinated with leftist ideology. Yeah, so this is what I heard. I haven't substantiated it to be clear, but apparently he was dating his roommate, and his roommate was transitioning from male to female. And they were apparently dating. And so he had a lot of trans ideology running through his head. And again, I've never once heard Charlie disparage a transgender person. I've just heard him say, I disagree with transgenderism. He disagrees with the ways that we go about helping these people. But he never once said that he wants transgender people to die. He never once said he wants them imprisoned. He just said we need to think about better ways to help them through what they're going through. Which I personally agree with. Like, I don't think that transitioning is helpful, especially not for children. An adult can make their own adult decisions. Don't get me wrong. Have fun, you're an adult. But I don't think that it's helpful. I think that you need therapy. I truly believe that, similar to, you know, telling a man that yes, you are a female, is similar to telling a schizophrenic person, yes, the sun is following you when you go for a walk. Yes, the TV is talking to you. Instead, you should be telling them no and getting them proper help. Yeah, and apparently he talked a lot about his doppelganger. Was trying to get me in trouble. And so I've seen this floating around online a lot too, is that he referred a lot to his quote-unquote doppelganger. So like another personality that he had essentially, which again, another clue that he has some mental illness. Yeah, and what I find crazy is that he's arrested on suspicion of crimes of aggravated murder, felony discharge of a firearm, and obstruction of justice. But they should be bringing him up on terrorism. And that was a terrorist attack that happened. It was an attack on free speech. It was an attack on our First Amendment. It says right here, Kirk's death, Cox has been prominent in calling for unity to ease political tensions. And that's something that I find interesting, is something like this happens to the right, it happens to Republicans, and we call for everybody to calm down, we call for everybody to ease up, we hold prayers, we hold vigils. Meanwhile, something bad happens to the left, something bad happens to Democrats, and they're burning down cities, and they're trying to escalate tensions. One side is trying to escalate things so that they can get their ideological love, and the other side is trying to calm things down for love of the country. Have a good day at work, Lady Geckofoot. He got Kirk shooting a direct assault on America and said Americans needed to look in the mirror and decide, are we going to try to make it better or are we going to make it worse? And that's something that I'm very fearful for, is that things are going to get worse. We're going to see more violence and maybe even leading up to civil war. I read a little more in the Bible, and man, people were the same way back then. In Acts 12, explains that King Herod executed James. He had James, the brother of John, executed. 3, when he saw how this pleased the Jews, he arrested Peter too. Yeah, I mean, this has been a common thing. As Lady Geckofoot said earlier, those who don't pay attention to history are doomed to repeat it. And I mean, that's all that's ever happened, is we're constantly repeating things that we're even warned about in the oldest book in the world, the Bible. And we just consistently repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Yeah, and I saw that his widow, Erica Kirk, she did a big response video to her husband's death. And she vowed that her husband's voice will remain, which is great. And I also saw too that I believe it was maybe a day or maybe 2 days after he was shot, they did his show with a bunch of guests and stuff, but they made sure to keep his chair empty. Which really, like, that's really just thing to stick in your mind of like, we really lost somebody. Like, his chair is still here, his family is still here, all of the things he did are still here, but he is now gone. And that's just so sad. Yeah, so it says here that he was one of the highest profile right-wing activists in the US and a trusted ally of Donald Trump. I truly believe that he was one of the main people who got Trump elected. His group Turning Point USA, they were campaigning heavily across the United States in favor of Trump. I truly think that they had a huge impact here in Pennsylvania. In PA, they really turned the tide of the votes. And I think that thanks to his work in Pennsylvania, I think he really changed people's minds and changed their votes. Yeah. Played a key role in getting people to vote for Trump and other Republicans during the election last year. Strong supporter of gun rights, opposed abortion, critical of transgender and gay rights, and promoted false claims about COVID-19. I doubt that any of his claims were false. I don't know all of his thoughts on COVID, but COVID was a complete scam. It was nonsense. I think that the actions of our government, the lockdowns and all that nonsense, I think that was more dangerous than the actual sickness itself. Like, for example, I think that one of the reasons that the sickness spread so much was because of the whole mask mandate nonsense. You're telling a bunch of people who don't know how to use a mask to use a mask. And all day long, I'd see people adjusting their masks, playing with their masks, taking it on and off and on and off and on and off. Well, guess what? You're wearing a mask and you breathe in some of that COVID gets stuck to the mask, and then you adjust the mask, put it over your nose again. Well, guess what? That COVID particle just got onto your finger. Then you sit down to eat a sandwich, now you just ate the COVID particle and now you got COVID. Like, so I doubt that he ever promoted false claims, but maybe there's some truth to that, who knows. By the way, Stormer and Goro, you guys just got a promotion. But yeah, people saying, calling his comments deeply offensive to some minority groups, including LGBT people and Muslims. They just think that it's offensive because he didn't agree with every single word that these groups have to say. I never once heard him say Muslims are awful, dirty people. I never heard him once say LGBT people are awful, dirty people. All I ever heard was him show them respect, allow them to talk, and say, I disagree with you on what you're thinking. And yeah, this is just a terrible turn of events. But unless anybody else has something to say on that, I'm gonna move on. Let's check out some other news happening in the world. Maybe we'll click on some more Charlie Kirk stuff if I find something interesting. Well, here's this. This looks interesting to me. Workers fired, placed on leave for Charlie Kirk comments after assassination. And I've been seeing this. This makes me very happy that people are getting fired over this and facing big punishments. Because they should. Not only are they cheering on somebody's death, which is already terrible, but they're cheering on terrorism. That'll be, for example, if after 9/11 you were like, oh dude, it's so cool that those towers fell. That's awful. Get that out of my face. Nobody wants to see a little newscast. multiple firings. Employees in a range of industries as well as academia are finding themselves in hot water over remarks they made about his death or his political beliefs. Gerald Bourget, after he... sorry, I should read the first part. Phoenix Sports, an online sports news site focused in Arizona, announced the firing of Gerald Bourget after he said on social media, and has since deleted posts. And so that's another thing. These people don't even believe that... They don't even believe in what they're saying truly, since they're going to delete the post afterward. If you really believe what you're saying, keep it up. Let's show the whole world how demonic and evil you are. Refusing to mourn a life devoted to that cause is not the same thing as celebrating gun violence. Well, I mean, it is though. You're celebrating terrorism, you're celebrating somebody's death, they're celebrating a family losing their life. I truly don't care if you think it's insensitive or poor timing to decline respect an evil man who died. I think Charlie was anything but evil. He encouraged conversation, he showed respect to everybody he talked to, he was a man of God. Something I did like to see though is that there were a lot of groups and a lot of people like giving respect to him after he died. I saw that there was a football team, I believe it was, that wanted to put up a statue of him in their field, which is wonderful. So not everybody is a psycho lunatic, but of course there are some. And again, as I said earlier, I think the most dangerous thing is that our elected representatives are being some of these lunatics now. Like, they can't even hold a moment of silence, they can't even hold a prayer without our elected representatives turning around and acting like crazy people. Let's try to find some other news to get into though. And as I said, his voice is louder than ever. How many of these news stories are about him right now? Okay, this is interesting. This guy, Zoran Mamdani. I think he's a terrible person, should not be running for any office in the United States. He's a self-declared socialist. And he wants to make a bunch of state-run grocery stores in New York, that's going to be terrible. State-run grocery stores, that's going to lead to the normal grocery stores leaving New York. It's going to lead to prices skyrocketing. It's going to have the opposite effect of what he wants. You know, the whole goal of socialism is supposed to be to keep everybody in check, so to say, make sure everybody's making about the same amount of money. But that's what their stated goal is, but what the true result is that it always results in just the rich getting richer, the powerful becoming more powerful. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that some NFL teams are doing stuff like that. You saw how they reacted with the whole BLM movement. Everybody had to, stop respecting this country because a black man was shot by a cop. It's not like he was taken out by the president himself, And so nobody could then stand for the national anthem. They all had to disrespect our country. Which I mean, I do support their right to do it. I just think that it's disgusting that they did it, though. You can hold both of views, I believe. But let's get into this story. President Trump threatened on early Monday to withhold federal funds from New York after Governor Kathy Hochul's shocking endorsement of Zohran Mamdani. Which, I mean, I don't know about withholding federal funds, but I don't think that he should be being endorsed by anybody. How can such a thing happen? Trump continued, adding, Washington will be watching the situation very closely, as he should. If New York becomes a socialist state, then I understand withholding funding after that. Maybe not withholding funding just because of somebody's endorsement. I do think that is a little bit extreme, but if it becomes a full socialist state, I do think we should withhold funding. You want to be socialist? Blah. Sorry. You want to be socialist? All right, let's see how well it works out for you. We're not going to help you. The bombshell endorsement by Hochul, who for months refused to get involved in the mayoral race, was revealed by the Post Sunday evening, just before her guest essay defending her choice was published in the New York Times. In the past few months, I've had frank conversations with him. We've had our disagreements, Hochul wrote. I mean, how can you have anything but disagreements with this guy? This guy wants to destroy New York. He's a full-on socialist. Yeah. She claims that he shares her commitment where her children can grow up in safe neighborhood and where opportunities within reach for everyday family. The neighborhoods are going to be less safe than ever because people are going to be poorer than ever. And there is going to be no opportunity for any family. There's going to be opportunity for the state. There's going to be opportunity for the rich. It's not going to be opportunity for anybody who needs the opportunity. It's going to be the rich getting richer, the powerful getting more powerful, and the poor getting poorer. And by socialist ideology, they should refuse any funding from anything or anyone. Yeah, exactly. If New York wants to become socialist, New York City wants to become socialist, alright. New York City, be socialist, but we will not help you out in any way, shape, or form. Something I think is funny. Let me try to find it. Is this guy cannot bench press a weight. I wonder if I can find the video for you guys before I pop it up on your screen. But I saw that, yeah, he was trying to do a bench press and just completely, like, his form was so bad. Let me pop it into view for you guys. I muted the video. But his form is awful. It looks like this is his first time doing a bench press ever. And it honestly looks like the spotter is doing most of the work. Like, the spotter does not let go for a single second, and it's so funny. And this isn't the best angle. There's better angles that show just how terrible his form is. But if you see, the spotter did not let go for a single second. The spotter was terrified to let go because he knew that Zohran would not be able to do it. And I know that's such like a small little point that doesn't need to be necessarily picked out, but I do just find it funny. Any topics that anybody watching would like to get into? I can jump into anything. I have thoughts on everything. Here's an interesting story. Kash Patel criticized for his actions and posts during Charlie Kirk shooting investigation. Let's see what this is all about. Could be interesting. So FBI Director Kash Patel's activities during the investigation of conservative activist Charlie Kirk's assassination raised questions about his decision making during a crisis. But I know at least I should put the bar perpendicular to me, not by my head. Yeah. That he had terrible form, and I just find it so funny that the spotter would not let go. The spotter was like holding on for dear life. Like, I know this guy can't do it, so let me be here to do it for him. And even with the spotter doing all the work, he could only get, what, 2 or 3 reps in? That's insane. I'm just kind of reading through it, trying to find the highlights for you guys. A lot of it's just nonsense, boring garbage, but there's heard concerns about how it looks, and administration officials said in a statement there's a lot of shaking head. In an interview on Monday, Patel defended his handling of the investigation, including social media posts he made the day of the shooting. Could have been worded a little better in the heat of the moment, sure. But do I regret putting it out? Absolutely not, he said. And this is Kash Patel speaking. I was telling the world that the FBI was doing what we were doing, and I'm continuing to do that. I dare anyone out there to find somebody who's been more transparent and willing to work with the media on high-profile cases. Now, what were his posts? Here we go. So hours after the shooting, oh my gosh, that's not what I wanted to happen. Hours after the shooting, Utah, Patel dined at a New York restaurant in Rayo's. 2 sources familiar with his whereabouts said, okay, so he dined at a restaurant. I was dining at a restaurant too when I found out about it. At 6:21 p.m., a few hours after it happened, that the subject in Kirk's killing was in custody. Roughly 90 minutes later, at 8 o'clock, he posted a follow-up message. The subject in custody has been released after interrogation by law enforcement. So what's so bad about saying that? Again, I just see that as him being clear, being transparent, telling the American people what's happening. Because there's a lot of confusion. Every normal person wants his shooter to be in custody, and they want his shooter to be behind bars. And so it's very important that he was giving us updates. I think that's a wonderful thing that he was giving us updates. And the posts were premature and unnecessary. I don't think so. It was breaking news. He was trying to keep us informed. He was trying to keep us updated with what was happening. They give the public perception that the FBI is not organized during an unfolding crisis. I mean, it shows that the FBI was doing their job in arresting suspects and then doing their job in releasing innocent people. And that's what I think it shows. Because should we just be like, oh, we caught the suspect, and since we caught the suspect, we're now gonna force him to be guilty because we have to look like we're organized. What? That's insane. Yeah, so they're trying to put it out to a publicity contest or who can tweet out information first. But first off, it's not tweeting anymore, it's Xing. And you should be trying to get information out there as quickly and as accurately as you can. And that's why he said it was a suspect in custody, not we got the evil person. He didn't say that. He just said we have a suspect in custody. I think that's a great thing to be telling the American people. I look forward to getting the updates because they've arrested 3 suspects at this point. 2 were released. And following those updates was very important because it showed that people were doing something. Something was being done about the travesty that we witnessed. Not that just everybody was just sitting on their hands, twiddling their thumbs all day. And I think that Patel and Bongino are doing a great job at running the FBI. My only criticism is probably what 90% of people's criticism is the Epstein list. I would like to see that released. Speaking of which, an interesting thing that happened is 3 hours after Charlie's death, the Senate voted to block the release of the Epstein list. So the Senate is trying to keep us from getting valuable information that I think we could really use. He traveled from New York to Utah after attending 9/11 anniversary ceremonies. He spoke on the anonymity. If I could speak today, that'd be nice. Told him not to appear in news conferences in Utah and make public comments until there was an arrest. Why? I think it's very important to continue to give us updates. Yeah, one of the administration officials said Patel made the right decision by remaining silent. I don't think so. I think we should, again, just as Charlie was doing, constantly debating college students, we should be talking about it.
Listening. So I say to you, listen. So when you say I and point to the I as that which doesn't change, it cannot be what happens to you. It cannot be the thoughts.
Yeah, that's another thing too. The shooter was turned in by his father, that's amazing. Because I can imagine that's very hard to turn in your own child for committing a heinous crime. And he did what was right at the end of the day and turned his son in. Alright, this is boring. Let's see if I can get you guys. What was I gonna look up? Epstein list. Shut down by Senate. Let's see what this is all about. Apparently the father and grandmother were both conservative. They did an interview with his grandmother. I mean, no matter what side of the political aisle you're on, I personally believe that family comes before your political side. And so I do think it was still probably a hard decision for the dad to choose to turn in his son. Definitely a hard decision, but the right one. Definitely made the right decision in that case. So, this is something I didn't know. Senate Republicans defeated an effort on Wednesday by Democrats to insert language into Congress' annual defense authorization bill that would have forced the public release of case files on the sex trafficking investigation to the late Jeffrey Epstein. The Senate voted 51 to 49 to dismiss the changes to the bill, with Republican Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri and Rand Paul of Kentucky joining with all Democrats in opposition. For months, Democrats have clamored for the release of what's become known as the Epstein files, looking for practically every opportunity to force Republicans to either join or push for disclosure. Republicans oppose the cause that many Republicans base support. President Trump signaled that he was running for president and was open to releasing a full accounting of the case, but is now trying to dismiss the push as a Democrat hope. Yeah, I think the Republicans are acting like complete fools with this. Again, I'm a conservative, I'm a registered Republican, but these files need to be released because I care about children way more than I care about being a Republican. I'd gladly, throw away my political party to save some children any day. And, the way that they're acting, it only leads you to think, maybe they're guilty of something. Maybe they're in those files. That's the only conclusion you can really draw from that. What's up, Birdie? How's it going? I followed a content creator who I really like who posted on X stating he won his stupid prize, which is sad. I respect his opinion, but he no longer has my support. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I don't think he won a prize from that because it's like he supported guns for defense. He never said I want guns for offense. It was clearly about, the right for you to protect yourself if somebody's attacking you, the right for you to protect yourself if the government is persecuting you. He never said that, everybody should have a gun and just start shooting them about willy-nilly. That's insane. So far, Democrats have been successful in forcing Republican leadership to grapple with the issue. Yet it was unclear whether they would actually be able to crack Trump's hold on congressional Republicans to force legislation through Congress. I mean, I'm fully on support of releasing these files. They need to be released. Oh man. Yeah. I already have a huge issue with the person who races Nico. I already don't like him for many reasons before this, but this just really cements it firmly. I mean, as I've said before, you're not only cheering on somebody's death, you're not only cheering on the heartbreak of an entire family, but you're also, cheering on a terrorist attack. It was a terrorist attack. It was an attack on free speech. It was an attack on our Constitution. Asked my Republican colleagues after all those years he spent calling for accountability, for transparency, for getting to the bottom of these awful crimes, why won't you vote yes? But yeah, I think it's disgusting how Republicans are handling this Epstein stuff, especially Trump himself. Trump goes from, we need to get these files out, make me president, and I'll get these files right in front of your face. And it's been nothing but now it's obfuscation of the fact. It's a Democrat hoax, yada yada yada. It wasn't a Democrat hoax when you were running for president just a year ago. A year ago it was something that was desperate for the American people to see, and now it's, oh, now it's, oh, it's just a hoax, it's just nonsense. You don't gotta be sorry, Birdie. It's just conversation, you can talk about whatever you want. You can even change the topic to something else different. If you guys have any topics that you want to bring up, I'm more than happy to look into it. And I just recently got off of Charlie Kirk, so you can definitely still bring that up. I got off of him just a minute or two ago to get into this nonsense. Forced the Justice Department to release the Epstein files and the Animal Defense Policy Bill. I mean, again, I just think that they should release it. I think it's nonsense that they're trying to deny it, that they're trying to say, oh, it's a hoax or whatever else. That's nonsense. One of the scary things that I've seen on, and we're going to go back to the Charlie Kirk stuff. One of the scariest things I've seen was people that I know, my, former friends, family members that I haven't talked to in a while on Facebook posting about, oh, this is a good thing, or posting that they don't care that it happened or whatever. That's crazy. Like, this is somebody's life. Again, I said this way early in stream. I do not like Obama. I do not like Biden. I do not like Kamala. I don't like Zohran Mamdani, as we just discussed not too long ago. But I would never, 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 one, offer them to die, or two, celebrate their death. If Biden would have died from old age when he was in office, as I was scared he might have, then I would have still been sad about that. Like, we should never celebrate somebody's death. Yeah, very sketchy situation. I'm unsatisfied with what the Justice Department has released so far. They've released little to nothing. Meanwhile, we heard that we're going to get everything. I understand some things need to be redacted. Go ahead, take out the victims' names, take out sensitive information, but I want to know how all this went down. I want to know who was visiting the island, who was making victims. I think that's very important to know who was making these victims, because I know that at least some of the people who did these heinous things to these children, at least some of them are serving in our government. I know that some of them are famous, singers and movie makers and whatever else that a lot of people look up to, and I think that we need to expose them as quickly as possible. Who's this Tyler person you're talking about, Birdie? Is that the shooter? I always forget his name. I try my hardest not to remember because I don't want to give him any notability. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I try to forget his name as much as I can because I do not want him to have any room in my brain at all. Because that's what that's definitely what he's looking for. He wants his name to be out there. He wants all these news articles to be going around. Yeah, what can be buried and pardoned with money. Yeah, it's despicable. Epstein's case has consumed Congress. And Epstein killed himself in a Manhattan jail, awaiting his trial in 2019. So, here's something. I do not think that Epstein killed himself. And a lot of people will say that's a conspiracy theory or whatever they want to say. But a famous content creator, Steven Crowder, he tested Epstein's death himself. He tried to kill himself live on stream. I watched this live. And warning for anybody who's sensitive, for sure. Very disturbing images may be seen, but I'm just gonna skim through this a little bit. We don't need to watch the whole thing. He set up the whole cell and everything. He dressed up like a lunatic, he always does. But yeah, he tried every possible thing he could to try to strangle himself with a bedsheet. And he just was not able to do it. He was not able to apply the force needed to kill himself. It's just something that could not happen, something that I don't think happened at all. I'm gonna cut it off there. I don't want anybody to get all squeamish about that. Now that can be very sensitive for a lot of people. Yeah, I'm very happy to see you guys here as well. Thank you for coming on by. Yeah, I don't think he killed himself. And I find it very interesting that they were saying before, oh, the cameras were off. Nobody knows what happened because we don't have any cameras of it. And then all of a sudden they come out with this footage that, let me mind you, was missing a minute. A minute of footage was missing. And they said, oh, that's because the cameras shut down and turned back on at the start of every day. I don't want to hear that nonsense. I don't believe any of this. He trafficked dozens of underage girls. The case was brought more than a decade after he secretly cut a deal with federal prosecutors in Florida to dispose of nearly identical allegations. He was accused of paying underage girls hundreds of dollars in cash for massages and then molesting them. That's disgusting. And that's another thing too, is like Trump usually, I feel like he has his ear to his base very well. But I feel like most, if not all of his base is calling for these files to be released. Why is he not doing it? Why is he denying it? I really don't like that. Yeah, it's become Amy Schumer. No, I don't think it's Amy Schumer. I forget their name right now. Whatever. Schumer responded, it's become so apparent that they're lying about it in every different way, and the demands of the American people are so great. I believe a lot of Americans want this released. I don't know for sure, but I think a majority do. And for them to not release it, for them to deny that it's even real, is disgusting and horrific. I remember there was the huge stories going around of people throwing dildos on the WNBA basketball courts. I think that's a little messed up, but it is kind of funny at the same time. Here's this. This looks interesting. Shot dead for protesting against corruption in Nepal. Everyone said a rubber bullet, rubber bullet. It was not a rubber bullet. If you see my son, his head was broken. A hole is there. So sad. Trump had made some decisions that personally and negatively affect one of my best friends. I wasn't his biggest fan to begin with, but now even less so. Yeah, I mean, I support most of what he does. I do not support this whole Epstein nonsense. I think that the fact that he's trying to cover it up is absolutely disgusting. If you don't mind, I would like to hear more about how he's affected your friend. But you don't have to go into it if you don't want to, Goro. Wants to know who will take responsibility for the death of his son, Sulov, who was among scores killed in violent unrest that rocked Nepal last week. I want to ask this country, he says, choking back tears, if they can fire, they can... What? If they can fire, they can shoot my son, and then I and his mother will also stand. Who will we live for now? We also want to die. That's so sad. They're among more than 70 people who died in anti-corruption protests at the start of last week, which toppled the government of the Himalayan nation. More than 1,000 were injured in the 2 days of unrest. That's insane. A ban on social media was the impetus for this protest. The anger against the government corruption had been building in recent weeks. By the time the ban was reversed late on Monday, September 8th, the protesters had swelled into a wider movement. Crowds torched politicians' homes and official buildings as an outpouring of anger at the ruling class boiled over. Well, okay. I don't know if they necessarily mean torched as in like set them ablaze, but if they did that, that's also unacceptable. Should not be burning down cities. They should not be burning down people's houses. They also shouldn't be killing people protesting. So both sides are on the wrong for this, but in my opinion, the government's definitely more in the wrong because the government is supposed to be the normal people, as I said earlier. Many of those were shot. Police are accused of opening fire on the crowds, but others were burned in fires or died in confrontations with the police. Casualty figures have been going up as authorities clean the debris. That's so messed up. I heard also that there's huge protests going on in the UK. Here we go. UK police officers were assaulted as 110,000 anti-immigration protesters marched through London. Now, I heard that it was for both anti-immigration as well as more free speech, because if you're unaware, the United Kingdom does not have free speech. You can be jailed for many offenses, like hate speech or misgendering somebody, and for, like, for example, a huge story that sticks so heavily in my head is the fact that they jailed somebody for singing Kung Fu Fighting at karaoke night one night. And he wasn't doing like a racist version of it. He wasn't singing in like a Chinese accent or anything. Because a white person was singing Kung Fu Fighting at karaoke, he was now under arrest. Which, that is insanity. Police say that more than 100,000 gathered in London as far-right anti-immigration groups and counter-protesters held demonstrations. Police say a number of officers were assaulted during the clashes which follow a summer of similar protests across the UK. Or is that the whole story? Are you kidding me? That's literally just a headline. Yeah, that too. I mean, wasn't Kung Fu Fighting made by an American? I could be wrong on that, but yeah, now they're gonna try to label them as far right. If this is far right, no, like nobody can tell you what just being on the right is anymore. Because now you're either a leftist or you're far right. There's no in between. There's no longer moderates. There's no longer normal people on the right. There's no longer leftist extremists, according to, you know, these news outlets and stuff. According to these news outlets, there's only people on the left and far right extremists. No other groups exist according to these media outlets. And not to mention that it's this type of rhetoric that I believe led to Charlie Kirk's death. The mainstream media calling him far right, the mainstream media calling him an extremist, the mainstream media calling him a Nazi, comparing him to Hitler. It's these kind of talks that lead to an innocent man being killed now. That's what gets the most attention. But they're getting attention and fueling people up to commit these heinous acts. I remember so much back in the day, it was like there was the punch a Nazi movement going around, where if you see a Nazi, it's okay to punch them. And then there's the common adage of, if I could travel back in time and kill baby Hitler, I would do it. And so it's like, if you're gonna say that somebody is a Nazi, if you're gonna say that somebody's Hitler, then of course that's gonna make people get violent. We've known that for years, at bare minimum years. Several officers were punched, kicked, and struck by bottles tossed by the fringes of Unite the Kingdom rally. Yeah, and again, I think that's wrong. You should not be getting violent in your protest. You want your protest to actually have an effect. You want your protest to actually matter. Stay calm. Do not attack anybody. By being violent at a protest, you're showing that you're a bad person as well. Now, there can be two bad people in every situation. Not every situation is just one person's bad, one person's good. But on my land, did you... Man, I think this was NBC talking about honoring his death after calling every conservative a Nazi. Oh yeah, exactly. And that's what I find so funny about these mainstream media outlets, is that they want to sit here and call him a Nazi, call him Hitler, call him an extremist, and then he dies and they're like, oh, we loved him so much, he was so amazing, and we should all, you know, pay honor to him. But you're the reason that he died, in my opinion. If you weren't making people more divided, if you weren't separating people from being able to have normal conversations, I don't think Charlie would have died. If you weren't labeling him as something less than something that's evil, then I don't think he would have died. Yeah, exactly. Somebody practicing their First Amendment is killed by someone who abused their Second Amendment. And that's the thing too, is like, I don't know about everybody, but me personally, I still support our Second Amendment, even if it's used for these heinous things, because each and every year, guns save more lives than they hurt. I believe it's the FBI estimates that every year between 300,000 and 3.5 million violent crimes are stopped by guns. And the reason why that number is so widespread, 300,000 and 3.5 million, is because a lot of these violent crimes are stopped just by somebody showing you that they have a gun. Like, most of the time, all you need to do is just show the attacker, show the criminal that you have a gun on your hip, and they're walking the other way now, instead of assaulting you, instead of robbing you. And every year, more people are saved by guns than are killed by guns. And then, what, you do something like the UK does and take guns away. Well, guess what? The criminals still have guns first off. And then everybody still has knives. So what, we're going to take knives away like the UK did? And then now you just have no chance to defend yourself. What is, you know, a little, you know, 110-pound woman supposed to do against a gang of people? A gang of grown men who work out every day. If she had a gun, she could take care of that situation without any arming whatsoever. She's not going to be able to take care of that. Yeah, exactly. Now we take away forks. Then we have to take away rocks. Then we have to take away our fingernails and our teeth. Now we have to, you know, walk around everywhere with handcuffs on our hands so that we don't punch each other. I don't think we should have gun control. What is harder to control is intent. Yeah, exactly. We need to... I support better background checks. I'm fine with that. They should definitely be checking your social media nowadays. I support, you know, definitely looking more into the people that you give guns to. But I don't support taking them away, because no matter what, the criminals will have guns. The fact that guns exist means that criminals will have them. Not to mention, too, another huge part of the Second Amendment is that you have to be able to defend yourself against your government. What was the first thing? Yeah, what's the first thing that Hitler did when he was taking over Germany? One of the first things he did was take away guns. Then he executed 6 million Jews. Could you imagine if, you know, I'm not saying he would, but imagine if Trump took away all guns, then he could start, you know, for example, persecuting Christians. He could start persecuting, you know, Muslims. And there's nothing that anybody could do. He could start persecuting the LGBT community, which, although I disagree with a lot of their views, I don't think that they should be sent into camps and killed. That's insane. But that could be done if you take away the guns. We should have guns that are equal to the guns that our military has. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, I'm not allowed to have a fighter jet in my backyard. Yeah, you're not allowed to. But there are militia groups across the United States that do have fighter jets. Now, I think it's very important that we are able to defend ourselves not only against criminals and violent attackers, but also our government. Because you don't protect yourself against your government, and they do crazy things like kill 6 million Jews. At least 9 people were arrested, but police indicated that many other offenders have been identified and will be held accountable. I mean, by the UK standards, they could arrest all 110,000 people because 110,000 people were doing hate speech, you know? Okay, so I don't really like the control word. What about gun management? It does not involve the government taking them away, I guess. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. No, yeah, I feel like I understand where you're coming from. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel as though, I feel like you're trying to say, like, similar to me, you want better background checks, but people should still be allowed to have them. You already have to have a background check at the very least. Yeah, I do think that background checks should be more in depth, though. Our background checks as we have them right now are very flimsy. It's still, they're very old background checks, so to say. And it checks on if you've committed crimes before, it checks for other things like that, but they don't, something big that I think should be, they need to check your social media. If you're out there posting things on Facebook like, oh, I want to shoot this group of people, you should not have a gun. Or at least maybe you should be required to do like mandatory therapy before you get a gun or something like that. They should definitely be checking people's social media, especially since, you know, it's so easy to do. anyone I've seen on Facebook who more left that actually mourns Kirk's death is just talking about the opportunity to harp gun control. Like, are you kidding? Yeah, I mean, gun control is not going to solve our issues. I don't know the stats, but I would estimate that probably 75 to 80% of mass shootings are perpetrated by illegal firearms, by people who shouldn't have a gun to begin with. Like, for example, the people who steal a gun out of their dad's gun safe and then go shoot up a school. Well, you were never allowed to have the gun in the first place. It's actually shown statistically that the most law-abiding group in the United States are legal gun owners. If you legally have a concealed carry license, you're the most likely group in America to be a law-abiding citizen. People sell guns at gun shows, and Charlie mentioned in one of his debates said that there's an unofficial list for guns, but that depends on where you go. I mean, I don't think it's bad to sell guns at gun shows. Just again, get that background check, which they do. Yeah, morons. By the way, if you guys want to curse, I don't really care if you do. That's your own priority. I just personally don't. I try my hardest not to, I should say, because I just don't think that is what God would want. But if you guys want to curse, feel free. Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, founded the Nationalist and Anti-Islam English Defense League, which is one of the most influential far-right figures in Britain. The march was billed as a demonstration in support of free speech, with much more rhetoric by influencers and several far-right politicians from Europe aimed largely at perils and migration, a problem much of the continent is struggling to control. What do you mean by that, Birdie? I think a lot of people forget about certain licenses for guns. What do you mean by that necessarily? So this is an interesting story. There's been multiple of course it's not going to come up with something. There's been multiple political candidates yeah, Joe Cox, for example. Well, that's all the way in 2016. Can't find it right now, but I was reading that I believe there were 7 or maybe 8 people who were killed in the UK during this election cycle. And surprise, surprise, all of them were conservative. Like concealed carry license, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna go and apply for my concealed carry license this Friday, in fact. We are both subject to the same process of the great replacement of our European people by peoples coming from the South and of Muslim culture. You and I are being colonized by our former colonies, our French politician Eric Zemmour said. I mean, they are definitely facing a huge influx of people who aren't willing to assimilate to their culture, which is hugely detrimental. But the sad part is that they brought it upon themselves. It's not like before the Crusades, Muhammad came into Europe and was slaughtering Europeans and enslaving them and taking over Europe. This isn't that. This is the European leaders, the European prime ministers and stuff, inviting these people into their country, these people who have no want to assimilate, these people who want to hold their values of their old country, these people who have many values that are much, much different than what the average person in the UK have. And of course, there's going to be, people upset about that. Of course, there's going to be people protesting. Of course, there's going to be violence when you try to put groups together that have hugely fundamental different worldviews. That's why I think it's important when coming into the United States, for example, that you do take that citizenship test where you have to answer certain questions about like the founding of our country and our country's laws and stuff to make sure that you understand the perspective that most Americans have. Most Americans, not all, but most Americans like the Constitution. They like what it has to say. But there's many countries throughout the world who don't have similar values to us. Even the United Kingdom, for example, they're a white country, so it has nothing to do with race, but they have completely different values than us. And they need to have our values before they come to our country. Now, they can come visit, that's fine, come be a tourist, but I don't think that you should be trying to live here with completely different values than what most Americans have. There's something beautiful about being British, and what I see happening here is self-destruction of Britain, initially a slow erosion, but rapidly increasing erosion of Britain with a massive uncontrolled migration, Elon Musk said. The British public, the people that built this nation. March has come out at a time when the UK has been divided by debate over migrants crossing the English Channel in overcrowded inflatable boats to arrive on shore without authorization. Yeah, I think that's terrible. I find it amazing that the Constitution has only amended 27 times. The last time was about 33 years ago. Our founding fathers were very smart, despite the one that published his affair, but that is beside the point. I mean, yeah, I personally think that our founding fathers were geniuses when they constructed the Constitution. And they were able to not only see the problems of their time, but also they had the intelligence and the wisdom to peer into the future, hundreds of years into the future, to see the issues that are facing us, in the 1800s, the 1900s, and now today in the 2000s. I find it very, very impressive that the law that they wrote all the way back then still makes a lot of sense even today. It's been a little less than 300 years, and yet they're still making sense. Numerous anti-migrant protests were held this summer outside hotels housing asylum seekers following the arrest of an Ethiopian man who was convicted of sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl in a London suburb. Yeah, I mean, that's a huge thing that I've heard about. I don't have any substantiation right now, but I can look it up if somebody wants me to. I've been hearing that there's just tons of sexual assault and rape going on in the United Kingdom. That because a lot of the people that they're inviting into their country through asylum and through other means, again, just don't hold the sexual values that Europeans and Americans, most of them, hold. And so they're going to do things differently and do things that we think are horrific. We're gonna detract from this for a minute. And I just got sent something. Let's look into this. an X post. Seems to be Donald Trump talking about something. So let's take a little look into this. I'll pause the music. Let's get this unmuted. I'll restart it in just a minute. Oh my gosh, that's loud. I don't know if that's loud for you guys. So let's read this first. Justin, President Trump responds to people who say both sides are the problem. The problem is on the left, it's not the right. When you look at the agitators, the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left, not the right. I mean, yeah, I definitely agree with that to a degree. I do know that there have been people on the right, that there have been Republicans that have burned the flag. Didn't your last chat make it through? The last chat that we got from you is Hi Beatty Art. So maybe try rephrasing it or something. I can tell you now it's not me or my channel restricting what you're saying. It's definitely YouTube restricting what you're saying, so. But let's take a peek at this.
Well, the problem is on the left. If you look at the problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators,
Birdie, I'm giving you a
you look at the scum
giving you a promotion.
so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place. That's the left. That's not the right. Well, the problem is on the left. If you look at the problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left. That's not the right.
I do support people's right to burn the flag. I do think that is part of our First Amendment. But I do think that it should be against the law to do it in a way to try to intimidate Americans, to try to, scare them. For example, like, if there's two different sides of a protest going on, and one side burns the flag and is being violent and being threatening towards the other side, I do think that's wrong. But I do think that, if I go in my backyard right now, set an American flag on fire and post it on Snapchat, I do think that should be acceptable free speech. Let's see what some people had to say. I'm not allowed to look at comments because I'm not on X. I don't like social media, so I have very little social media, and I'm not going to get it just to look at comments. We want our country back, they say, in the United Kingdom. UK flags have proliferated this summer across the UK at events on village lampposts and what some have said is a show of national pride, and others say reflects a tilt towards nationalism. I mean, that's something else that I don't like, is the demonization of the word nationalism. I think that you should be nationalistic. Now, I don't think that you should be so nationalistic that you hate every other country in the world, but you should love your country. I do think that is a very good, very important value to have. You should love your country. But again, I don't think you should take it so far that you're like, oh, I only care about my country and every other country is garbage. I think that's taking it too far. But Tortoise held signs saying, stop the boats, send them home, enough is enough, save our children. Extremely laughable how the same groups of people who cry no guns and down with the police are the same group pew-pewing conservatives wishing for / celebrating life ending because of different beliefs and rioting like nobody's business. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, you see what happened after Charlie Kirk's shooting. Everybody is praying, they're holding vigils, and they're being peaceful. Meanwhile, things happen on the left and they start burning down cities, they start, shooting each other. They take over small parts of cities, like we saw with I forget what that encampment was near San Francisco, but all good, Storm. Don't worry. COVID ruined everything. Life hasn't been remotely peaceful since the pandemic. Yeah, I mean, I think a huge cause of why you feel that way, Goro, is because of I think mental health issues. I think they were spread far and wide during the COVID nonsense. Because you lock everybody down in their house, and then they start thinking these crazy thoughts and don't have a way to get them out. And it's been shown that depression levels, anxiety levels, and just general mental health issues have risen since the lockdown. But I truly believe what our government did during COVID is worse than the sickness itself. And how this leads back into Charlie Kirk. Again, his voice is louder than ever. Leader of the center-left Labour Party, and also shouted messages of support for slain U.S. conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Yeah, so you can't call yourself center-left, and you're an extremist if you're supporting somebody's death. You're an extremist. Brady, I'm unsure of what you're referring to personally. Bagpiper playing Amazing Grace in tribute to Charlie Kirk. One demonstrator held a sign saying freedom of speech is dead. Rest in peace, Charlie. Crowd covered blocks of London. Yeah, I don't know if there was a picture of it up here. Yeah, there's thousands of people in these protests. I saw a video and it looked like just so many people were like marching about this, which makes me personally very happy. Just COVID and how that was used as a political platform. I mean, our government made it political, in my opinion. It could have just been a time of unity, a time for, Americans, time for the world to come together. But I believe that their lockdowns, that their mandates separated us even more than we already were. And yeah, okay. No, you're fine. We're just having a talk. Nothing bad. But yeah, I think that their lockdowns and their mandates is what really had the worst effect. I think that what our government did was way worse than the actual sickness itself. And not to mention that I think that a lot of the things our government did is, in fact, spread the sickness more. Like I was saying earlier, the mask mandates. A lot of these people did not know how to properly use a mask. They would breathe in a COVID particle. That particle would get stuck to their mask. Then they're sitting there adjusting their mask or taking it off to eat and then reusing the mask. Well, guess what? You take off that mask and now you have a COVID particle on your finger. You eat your sandwich, now it's in your body, and now you're sick. And then the fact that they tried to say that you essentially can't live your life unless you get an experimental injection that has never been approved by the FDA before, that's insanity. You can't go to, I personally, I had to miss out on a concert because I refused to get that injection because I did not know what it would do to my health. I didn't want to be a guinea pig for the government. I just didn't trust that. And I had to miss out on a concert that I was looking forward to for, I think it was like a year and a half before that. And, I essentially just threw, I believe it was $60 down the toilet because I bought the ticket previously. I bought the ticket before COVID even started. And I essentially just threw $60 down the toilet because the venue wouldn't let me in because I didn't have my vaccination passport or whatever it was called. I forget now. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is that the injection that they wanted to give you didn't even do what they said it would do. In the beginning, they said, oh, you get this injection and you won't be able to spread the sickness anymore. You won't be able to get the sickness anymore. Well, guess what? There were thousands and not millions of people who got the injection and were still spreading the sickness, who were still contracting the sickness. The crowd at one point stretched from the Big Ben across the River Thames. I don't know if I said that right, but and around the corner beyond Waterloo train station, the distance of about 3/4 of a mile. And one thing too is the crowd that stretched all that distance, they were packed tight. Oh no, I think we were 100% lied to. One of our biggest downfalls is that we trusted Anthony Fauci, who failed us during the AIDS pandemic back in, I think, either the 80s or the 90s. Back then, he said that you can get AIDS from touching a cereal box that your mother gives you in the morning for breakfast. And then we're going to put him in charge of COVID too. The dude should have been fired back during AIDS. He should have never entered back into the government ever again. But then we let him lead us through COVID. And where he lied to us multiple times during that too. Because I remember when it first started, the guy that I showed you who was trying to replicate Epstein's apparent suicide, that guy Steven Crowder, he recommended that people, he said, I don't know if this is true, I'm not a doctor, but maybe it's a good idea to put on a mask that might help you from the COVID. And then there were a bunch of mainstream news outlets coming out calling him an idiot for saying that we should use masks, saying that, oh, it doesn't even make sense, yada yada. But then it was literally, I believe it was 1 week later, Fauci says, oh, it's a good idea to use a mask, and now everybody wants to use masks. Now we have to have a mask mandate, in fact. And it's just nonsense. They tried fixing it, saying, oh, you gotta have the boost every 6 months to get your doses of live and dead COVID. And I catch that and catch it less than that. Well, one thing is, that's not even, like, it wasn't a typical vaccine. With a typical vaccine, for example, the flu vaccine, they take a weakened strain of the flu, they put it into a liquid, and they inject that into your veins. Your body learns, oh, this is a flu, this is how we're going to fight it. And then when the full-powered flu enters your body, now your body is ready to attack it. And learned the virus by having a weakened part of the virus injected into you. What this injection did, I don't even call it a vaccine personally, it's an injection. What this injection did, it changed the way that your DNA communicates across each other. It's called an mRNA vaccine. That's what they were calling it. And your DNA communicates using mRNA. So what it would do is it would change the way that your DNA signals to that mRNA to communicate. So it was changing your DNA to a degree instead of just putting a weakened version of the COVID inside of your veins. If it would have been a typical vaccine like how they do it for the flu, I would have likely gotten it. But I didn't get it because it was an mRNA vaccine. And the reason why is because the FDA has never once approved an mRNA vaccine in the entire existence of this country. But then all of a sudden they did just for COVID. And I found that very suspicious. And yeah, I mean, I understand if people got the vax, like, that's fine. Everybody has their own opinions and stuff. I just personally, I haven't, and I never will. I didn't allow my girlfriend at the time. Well, again, she could have made her own decisions, but I heavily urged her not to get it while she was pregnant with my daughter. She didn't, thankfully. I will not allow my daughter to get it. And yeah, I think that is a terrible thing, but, you know, people got the vaccine themselves. That's their choice to do so, and I support their choice to do so. There were a lot of factors you got to look into with getting the vaccine, too, of like, oh, my job will be taken away if I don't get it. Oh, I won't be able to go to restaurants, and I won't be able to travel outside the United States without it. So I think there's many good reasons to get it from a civilian's perspective. I just don't agree with the government forcing you to get it. And yeah, I did both rounds of Moderna. Didn't bother with a booster. Also, never had a flu shot in my life. And I've never had them. I never would have gotten it if I hadn't worked in the school system. Yeah, exactly. I definitely support people's right to get it. Inject whatever you want into your veins. It's not really a concern of mine. But I don't think the government should be forcing you to get it, saying you're not allowed to go to work at your school system if, you know, you don't get it. I think that is disgusting. We shouldn't be forced to do anything. I also described it, and it sounded much worse than what anyone I knew didn't take the shot who got it. Yeah, I mean, it was shown to have little to no effect on transmission, as well as the result of the sickness, like how intensely the sickness attacked you. And I believe it was the only thing that they found was a 3% drop in death. Which, I mean, that's good, I guess, but that's not what I'm looking for in a vaccine. And again, I just didn't like that they were using... My biggest thing against it is that they were using experimental technology, experimental mRNA technology that has never, ever been approved before in the United States. And they approved it like that at a snap of a finger just because we had a pandemic. And again, a pandemic that I think they made worse with the mask mandate, because the average person does not know how to use a mask. And then it also showed in the data that if you contracted COVID one time, it was, I forget the numbers now, but I think it was 6 times more effective than getting the mRNA injection. The other thing that made me have such a deep refusal of it is someone here locally died the night after taking it. It was a hard pass for me right after that. Yeah, that's a huge thing too, is all the, can't remember what it's called right now, but the heart problem that everybody was getting from it. We were watching people drop dead from it. Let me put the music back on. But we were watching people drop dead from it. Soccer players who are some of the most healthy people in the world all of a sudden have heart issues. I find that interesting. There's actually a really good documentary that I saw. That I would recommend you guys all check out after this stream if you want to. Well, it's called Died Suddenly. Here's the official trailer. I don't know if this is the one that I'm talking about, but I think it might be. yeah, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. But one of the big things is that so right here it shows a bunch of these new reports coming out that people are dying suddenly. Young people that never had heart problems before. I skipped past it because I wanted to look beforehand. They showed you that the mRNA injection, every time you get a vaccine, you get this huge piece of paper that tells you all of the side effects, all of the negative things that could happen if you do take it. Meanwhile, all that they had for the mRNA injection was this page is intentionally blank. That's the only thing that was on that entire page. But this documentary goes into also one of the big things for me was that, yeah, look at all these people, their eyes twitching, these people just falling over and dying. Like, that's not normal. And all of these people are confirmed to have the vaccine in them. But one of the big things is in this documentary, they had a mortician. He's been doing autopsies for, I think it was like 30 or 40 years. And he knows what blood looks like when it comes out of a dead body. But all of a sudden, the blood is looking different. Now there's all these like tiny little blood clots, and he was pulling out these vein-long strings of blood. Like blood clots. They're not really blood clots, but that's the only way that you can easily describe them, is these blood clots that are inches upon inches long that he just pulls out of their vein like it's pulling like a piece of, like, I always think about it of like on like a nerd's rope out of somebody, you know? I could talk all day about COVID. I think that's like one of the worst things that's happened in my lifetime. And I'm not even talking about the disease itself, I'm talking about our government's reaction to the disease. Trying to find something interesting for us to look at together. I was thinking of ending stream in about 45 minutes just so everybody knows. Yeah, if you guys want to talk about anything specific, just type it in chat and we can look into that. That seems interesting. US says framework for TikTok ownership deal agreed with China. Now, I personally, I'm very against TikTok. I think that it's bad. For one, the short form content is shown to cause brain damage. It's shown to elevate levels of depression and anxiety. And it's shown to be very bad for your attention span. So first off, I don't like it because of that, and then second off, I don't like that the way that China runs it. Because if you look at an American's TikTok feed, it's all this. No, it's not always this stuff, but the majority of it is degenerate nonsense. A bunch of stuff that makes you worse as a person. Meanwhile, you look at a Chinese person's TikTok feed in China, and it's all about engineering, it's about mathematics, it's about, educating yourself. Meanwhile, in the United States, most TikTok feeds are just degenerate nonsense. Yeah, and then, it's addicting as well. I don't think that we should be trying to make our people addicted to anything. We want to regulate things like cigarettes and vapes because they're addicting. We want to regulate alcohol for anybody under 21 because it's addicting. We want to regulate pretty much all drugs because it's addicting. Up until recently, we had huge restrictions on gambling because it's addicting. But it's fine for you to be addicted to your phone. I don't think we should be wanting our people to be addicted to anything. The thing that they should be addicted to is being good people. How about that? Deadline is looming for the Chinese owner of TikTok to find a buyer of America, where its American operators are facing down a shutdown and ban. And the threat to shut down the social media site in the US persuaded Chinese negotiators to drop demands for reduced tariffs as part of any deal to sell TikTok's US art. That's another thing too, is I saw that, I don't know how true this is necessarily, but apparently TikTok collects just tons and tons of your data, which can lead to being a public security threat in the United States. Because, yeah, it's not necessarily bad that if they have my data as I am right now, but if one day I become, the president, or one day I become the Secretary of Defense, that creates an issue for public security, because now they have all my information and they could use it as leverage against me when I'm negotiating with China. You guys as well. In January, the Supreme Court upheld a law passed in 2024 banning the video sharing app unless its parent company ByteDance sold its US division. Yeah, this is another thing that I disagree with Trump about, is I do think that TikTok should be sold to an American. Yeah. Said TikTok's access to data on American users poses a national security threat of immense depth and scale. ByteDance has repeatedly insisted that US operators don't share data with the Chinese government. But I 100% don't believe that. The Chinese government is a very ruthless, very data hungry, government. And so of course they're going to try to take whatever they can from whoever they can. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like a majority of like data sales in the United States, I wouldn't be surprised if a majority of sales go to the Chinese government. Because that's another huge issue, is that all these companies are able to just sell your data to whoever they want. Like YouTube, for example. YouTube could take it's been like 15 years that I've been on YouTube at least. And they could take all 15 years of that data and sell it to the Chinese. And that's like perfectly fine. That's perfectly legal. Trump keeps on extending the sale. Latest delay to the ban is due to end on the 17th of September. So in 2 days. Various figures previously been touted as potential buyers for their platform. Elon Musk, Mr. Beast, Frank McCourt. I don't know who Frank McCourt is, but I know the other two. I mean, my biggest thing is I really do think that there should be a much larger crackdown on short form content, whether it's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. I think that it 100,000% should not be able to get into the hands of children. I do think adults should be allowed to make their own decisions, so I don't really care too much about that. I do think that we should be a lot more truthful about how dangerous it is, but it should. No child should be watching short form content. Nobody under the age of 18 should have access to short form content.
Your heart's running away with your head.
Let's get back onto the Charlie Kirk thing. So, Tyler Robinson named suspect in Charlie Kirk shooting. What we know about him and how he was apprehended. That's muted. Get out my face. Suspected of killing him in Utah. Eluded authorities for more than a day. However, his father recognized him from photographs distributed by authorities. Officials say a series of events ultimately led to the 22-year-old being taken into custody. But that's crazy. He's a year younger than me. Like, I could not imagine doing what he did. I couldn't even imagine supporting what he did, and he's only a year younger than me. Yeah, we read that earlier. Governor says that he's not cooperating. I wanted to get into more of the details of like who he was. Because like I said, I remember reading something that he was like dating his roommate who is a transgender from male to female. And engraved on the casings was like trans ideology and stuff. I'm going to take a short break. I got to go to the bathroom real quick. But when we come back, we'll get into what writing on the shell cases allegedly said. So I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Y'all stay put.
Let's go.
Take those pills. Take those pills. Hey, here you go. Itching, sweating, take those pills. Thirsty, drowsy, take those pills. Worms, take those pills. I think you should take it. Oh. Itching, sweating, take those pills. Thirsty, drowsy, take those pills. Worms, take those pills. I think you should take it. Oh. Itching, sweating, take those pills. Thirsty, drowsy, take those pills. Worms, take those pills. Itchy all day. Here you go.
Let's go.
Take those pills. The full 30 days. Here you go. Hey, take those pills. Allergy pills. I think you should take it. Take those pills. The full 30 days. Here you go. Hey, take those pills. Allergy pills. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take those pills. The full 30 days. Here you go. Hey, take those pills. I think you should take it. Take those pills. The full 30 days. Here you go. again. Itching, sweating, take those pills. Thirsty, drowsy, take those pills. Worms, take those pills. I think you should take it. Itching, take those pills. Thirsty, drowsy, take those pills. Worms, oh, itchy all day. Here you go. Awesome. Take those pills. The full 3 days. Here you go. Take those pills. Allergy pills. I think you should take it. Take those pills. The full 3 days. Here you go.
All right, I'm back. Yeah, I mean, I understand wanting to stay off of it, but I've been going on there just to see who's posting these demonic, disgusting things, because I want to know who to avoid. Because these are people who are heartless. These are people who don't care about a family who's grieving. And I want to know who these people are so that I know I'm going to avoid you like the plague. I think this is a huge learning moment for all of us. We can see who the normal people are and who the extremists are. Anybody who's celebrating his death is an extremist. And then anybody who is saying that we need to have a civil war is an extremist on the other side. But all the people who are posting, you know, rest in peace, Charlie, I feel so bad for his family, those are the normal people. And those are, you know, those are the people you should continue to associate with, and you should try to avoid the extremists on both sides, in my opinion. I mean, you can still have conversations with them if they're able to have a conversation without putting a bullet through your neck, but so, with the writings on the case, with the writing on the shell casings allegedly said, describing what the casings said, one red said, hey fascist, catch, with an arrow symbol pointing up, then right, 3 arrows pointing down. Apparently those arrows were a thing connected to Helldivers, which is a video game if you guys don't know. And a lot of people are saying that that game should be like banned or whatever. I disagree with that. We shouldn't be banning video games for what people do. I don't believe video games make you violent. I think if anything, it helps to actually cool down violence, because I know many people who are like, I'm so angry, I had such a bad day at work, I'm gonna go and play Call of Duty so that I can take out some of my anger. And it's like, but that actually is calming people down to a degree. Another on fire casing read, oh, Bella Ciao, 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 which is a reference to the Italian anti-fascist song popularized following World War II. Another on fire casing read, if you read this, you are gay, LMAO. Yeah, I think it's exactly this, a misdirection, a distraction. I think it's just, he wanted to give you something to talk about. That's okay. I mean, they were on the scene when the shooting occurred within 16 minutes. They should have been there a lot sooner than 16 minutes. This is an ongoing investigation. There's evidence that they need for ongoing prosecution. What we know about him. This is what I kind of wanted to get into. Yeah, so he got more political in recent years. I've heard that a lot. Robinson mentioned during a dinner conversation with a family member that Kirk would be visiting Utah Valley University, according to Cox. Robinson and the family members discussed why they didn't like Kirk and his viewpoints. Then the family members stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. I mean, first off, I don't think Charlie was spreading hate. Second off, I'd much rather somebody spread hate than spread bullets. I can tell you that right now. He registered to vote with no party, and he's an inactive voter, which means he hasn't voted in 2 regular general elections, and did not respond to a notice sent by the county clerk. I know all about that. I was a judge of elections, and so, yeah, if you don't vote often, and if you don't respond to the mail that the county sends you, then you will be registered as an inactive voter. Both of his parents are Republican. But yeah, just another thing of these people hating their parents. Social media post act scores hunting. Whatever that means. Instagram appearing to belong to his father. I'm sure officials are reviewing connection with the investigation. Also includes multiple memes that are disparaging towards Democrats. The day after the 2024 election, Robinson's father posted a photo of a sunset with the caption "A New Dawn" from his mother, which is being reviewed by law enforcement, reads, it was a Facebook account. This boy is a genius and I'm hoping he'll pick Utah College and stay close to mama. And so that's so sad right there. It shows that, like, who knows, maybe not, but he definitely disliked, if not hated, his parents. Meanwhile, at least his mom loved him so much. Yeah, I definitely agree, Storm. The ACT. Okay. We're at a 34 on the test. Missing in the 99th percentile. He had experience hunting. Picture in 2017 on his Instagram appeared to belong to his father. Shows Tyler and what appears to be his younger brother posing next to a dead deer. There's black powder buck, a good job, boy. I'm all down for hunting, but not hunting people. Robinson is currently enrolled in Dixie Technical College in Utah. According to 2 people, working towards becoming an electrician, according to 2 people who knew Robinson. That's not to be identified. Yeah, that's the thing. He was clearly shown love by his family, but for some reason had at least a hate, if not a dislike for his family, all over politics. You should not allow politics to divide your family. That is terrible. Your family, like, politics starts with your family. And that's where it should be. Is first you worry about securing your family. Next you worry about securing your neighborhood or city. Next you worry about securing your state. And you last worry about securing your country, then securing the world. So it all starts with family. I've been here for a while. I actually went back to the beginning and watched 2 times speed because I wanted to make sure I heard what you had to say. Thanks, Belle. Nice to see you here. Yeah, the stream's actually gone a lot better than I expected. I've had 14 views. Which I know probably isn't a lot for some people, but this is, I think, the 3rd or 4th stream I've ever done on this channel, so pretty happy about that. And this is the first time I've done anything in years, so thank you guys for coming on by. Never heard him talk politically, said the classmate. They were not close friends. I never heard him talk about guns. His neighbor said, described the family as loving and quiet. He was the head custodian at his former school, along with being his neighbor. At that age, he was not as quiet as he was now. He was still very active, had a few friends at school, and stayed to himself mostly, but very, very smart. He told ABC News, describing him as a good kid. That's something that I've noticed, is I feel like a lot of smart people tend to do crazy, irrational things. Like they have too much information going on in their brain that things just get miswired or whatever. I don't know. That's just something I feel. Not a fact. Yeah, very loving parents. They just seem like very hardworking, down-to-earth family. Another neighbor called a time about 10 years ago when he was eager to earn money and did odd jobs like washing the car and cleaning the yard. He was a cute little boy. He received more than 7,000 tips and leads and completed some 200 interviews. Wow. That was a lot to get done in just 3 days. Very impressive. Yeah, I saw that the person who was questioning him finally spoke out. That it was visceral.
Overnight, authorities released a
Stop.
new video.
Nobody told you to talk. So Hunter Kozak, who asked Charlie the question before he was shot, as he was not worried for his own life in that moment, but described the humanness as visceral. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the video of him actually getting shot, but I saw it and it's yucky, to say the least. You just hear a little, and then all of a sudden you just see like tons of blood come pouring out of his neck and he collapses to the ground, and it's a sad, sad sight. And I don't know if anybody was here when I was saying it earlier, but one of the most disturbing things that I heard about it, I don't know if it's true, is I heard that when the shot rang out, his daughter's first instinct, because his family was in the crowd, his daughter's first instinct was to start running to daddy because she was scared. And she was running to a daddy that she'll sadly never see again. And that's heartbreaking. Like, even just talking about it now, I'm getting like emotional. That's so devastating. You run to the person who brings you safety just to realize that they're the reason why your safety is, you know, in jeopardy. They're not the reason, but they're part of why your safety is in jeopardy now. He disagreed with Kirk and had a question for him. He was subsequently directed into a specific area for people who had questions. That's one thing too. So I saw an interview with just a different guy who was there, not Kozak, but a different guy who was there. He was in line to talk to Charlie. And he said not only did Charlie Kirk inspire people to debate Charlie Kirk, but Charlie also inspired people to have debates as they're waiting to talk to Charlie. Like, this guy, I don't remember his name right now, but he was saying he was in line and he was having discussions with everybody around him. Some they were just agreeing on, some they were having arguments about, and everybody was giving compliments to each other. Everybody was so nice and having a good time, and they were having just civil, normal, common sense debate while preparing to debate Charlie. And so it's like, this guy just influence people to have tons and tons and tons of conversation, and that's the only way that we're going to connect together in this country. We will not connect together by not talking. The only way for us to get back on track to be a unified country is for us to speak together, for us to have talks, for us to get into disagreements without killing each other. Yeah, so he was 5 to 10 feet away from Kirk when the shots rang out. He heard the shot. He heard the shot. He thought the gun was 5 feet behind his head, but that he was very aware and in control. So he immediately recognized that this was a possible assassination attempt. He needed to find his wife. Adding that he knew he wasn't a target, they needed to get out of the vicinity. Following the shooting, Kozak said there were police officers all over the campus, and when he saw one taking notes, he went up to give him his contact information, informing the officer that he was he was the person to last ask Kirk a question, and that his wife had been recording a video, which she then sent to authorities. That's so crazy. So this guy who even disagreed with Charlie Kirk still had to like witness this gruesome, terrible thing. I mean, I still do think he was very respectful to people. I never heard him call somebody a name. Yeah, there's talking over each other, but I feel like that's just any normal conversation, even when I'm having a conversation about, you know, what we're gonna have for dinner tonight. I feel like me and the people I discuss it with talk over each other. It can be quite difficult not to talk over each other. I don't think that talking over people is necessarily just disrespecting them. The biggest thing is I've seen people that have just the complete opposite view of Charlie's view go up to talk to him, and he just talks to them like they're a normal person. Like I remember I saw a video, and there was this girl, she's decorated with pride flags and everything else. And she gets up to the mic, and people in the crowd were making comments about her, and he told them to stop. And then encouraged her to ask him, he encouraged her to ask him her question. And then had a very civil, very kind conversation with her after that. That's another thing too. And again, even if he was the most disrespectful, most rude person ever, even if, you know, somebody got up to the mic and he was like, "Get out of here, you're stupid and we all hate you." Even if he said that, which I don't believe he ever did, but even if he did, he does not deserve to get shot in the neck. Yeah, I also agree with what Storm is saying as well. Thanks, Belle, for giving a little bit of pushback. I like that. I don't want people to just come and chat just agreeing with what I say. I want some pushback too. Well, I do see what you're saying, Belle. But I also think that sometimes you don't know when somebody has finished their sentence sometimes. Sometimes there's just miscommunication, and it's not always disrespectful in my opinion. Sometimes it can be. You're definitely right on that. But I don't know. I personally don't think I've seen him be extremely disrespectful. Maybe slightly. And again, even if he was the most disrespectful, most, talked so mean to these people, I still don't think he deserves death. Yeah, thanks for the discussion. I like getting a little bit of blowback. Getting into tariffs. I think it's been pretty interesting to see how Trump's been doing his tariffs and stuff. I do agree that we should be tariffing people more. Other countries, I should say. Because they all tariff us. But we don't do it to them, which I find very, one-sided, so to say. I mean, I just think to not care about somebody's death is evil. I don't think anybody deserves to die. Like I said earlier in the stream, I think I don't like Obama, I don't like Biden, I don't like Kamala, but I would never imagine falling for their death. I'd never imagine taking their life. I'd never imagine celebrating their death. Trump says tariffs will increase the amount of tax raised by the government, encourage consumers to buy American-made goods, and boost investment in the United States. It was to reduce the U.S. trade deficit, the gap between the value of goods it buys from other countries and sells to them. He argues the U.S. has been taken advantage of by cheaters and pillaged by foreigners. For example, when announcing the tariffs against China, Mexico, and Canada, he said the countries had to do more to stop migrants and illegal drugs reaching the U.S. He also threatened tariffs against countries trading with Russia, and thus a deal to end the war in Ukraine was reached. They face numerous legal challenges. As tariffs have. So, what are Trump's tariffs on individual countries? Together, they have lifted the average U.S. tariff from less than 2.5% at the start of 2025 to more than 18%, according to analysts. Many tariffs from Trump's announcement in April, a baseline of 10% would apply to imports from other countries. Nations considered the worst offenders would face higher rates as payback for unfair trade policies. New tariff rates for dozens of countries were introduced in August after delays to allow for free trade talk. After delays to allow for trade talk. They include 50% tariffs on Indian goods, including a 25% penalty for trade with Russia, 50% tariff on Brazilian goods, 30% on South African goods, 20% on Vietnamese, 15% on Japanese, and 15% on South Korean. I mean, I don't think feminism is good for the general world, the country, and I don't think it's good for women, at least what feminism is today. Maybe feminism in the 1920s was good, but today it's devolved to be much worse than it should be, in my opinion. Define feminism. Let me think about that for a second. I mean, I feel like the definition that it should be is like women standing up for themselves and stuff, to be treated as equal to men when it comes to laws and stuff like that. But I think what the definition has turned into today is, and again, not for all feminists, but for many feminists, is trying to make themselves superior to a degree over men. We already see how things are in the core systems when it comes to things like divorce, where most of the time men are paying alimony to their wives, even if the wife initiated the divorce. And she initiated it over non-fault things. I think we see it how women more of the time are given children in custody battles, or given more custody over their children, more time with their children in custody battles, even if the dad's not abusive or anything like that. And I think, in my opinion, this is an opinion, not a fact for sure. In my opinion, feminism has made abortion a lot more of an acceptable thing, and I think that it's not acceptable because they want to claim that it's health care for women and yada yada. And I do agree that we should allow abortions for women who are facing medical problems. If you're gonna die if you are pregnant, then okay, an abortion I think is acceptable. But we see tons of abortions for non-medical reasons, and I think that is very, very bad. Because, in my opinion, and as science, I believe, would show, you are killing a baby, and I think that's unacceptable. I think that there's a good possibility that when we go to the future, we will see that the topic of abortion will be is very comparable to slavery. Of some people are sticking up for the people who don't have a voice. Slaves didn't have a voice. Non-born babies don't have a voice. And I think I think they're very comparable. There's one side trying to stand up for the voiceless, and one side trying to oppress the voiceless. And that's my biggest problem with feminism, honestly, is abortion, and then also the non-fault divorces and stuff. I think it's very bad, because I think that our number one priority as a race, as a human race, should be to protect our children. That should be our number one priority. Yeah, I would hope so, but there are a lot of people who decide to just curse the country instead, which happens a lot. Charlie tried to further America in the way he could. Yeah, thanks for this discussion, Bill. Like I said, I appreciate you giving me a little pushback. Because that's one thing, I'm very confident in my views, but I'm also very confident that I don't know everything. So maybe you know something that I don't know. Maybe you could change one of my views and make me a more well-informed, more educated person. So We'll go back to this once I see anything. Yeah, that's why, Storm, that's why I keep on trying to tell her, like, thank you for pushing back. Because I do appreciate it, because, like I said, maybe she knows more than me. Maybe this could be a learning experience for me, who knows? China and US threatened tariffs of more than 100% on each other's goods and extended a truce till November. This will be further discussions about unfair trade policies. Canada, which faced tariffs up to 35%, and the US are also continuing their negotiations with their Prime Minister, Mark Carney. Yeah, I keep on forgetting that they got a new one. I'm so used to Trudeau. That it would drop some retaliatory tariffs to reestablish free trade for the vast majority. Mexico was given a reprieve on tariffs of 30% or more until the end of October to allow time to strike a deal. It's a reprieve. I don't know what that means. Temporary delay. I'm honestly not a world economist, but I do think the way that Trump has been negotiating has been very good negotiating negotiating tactics. That's what I meant. Hit them high, and then we can discuss about taking it lower. I do think that's a great tactic to use. At 10%, the UK has negotiated the lowest US tariff so far of any country that has struck a deal with Trump. Exported about 50 billion of goods in the US, mainly cars, machinery, and pharmaceuticals. The 10% rate applies to the first 100,000 vehicles exported every year, roughly the number of cars sold in 2024. Additional vehicles face the standard 25% tariff. The agreement also lets the two countries sell beef to each other. Some US ethanol will face 0% tariffs instead of 19%. Yeah, I think that's probably the best thing to come out of all of this, is just that we're discussing the tariffs that they also had on us for years on years on years on years. These countries have been tariffing us at high rates for a very long time, and now they have a chance to simmer it down with us. However, the UK is the only country which does not face a 50% tariff on steel and aluminum, paying 25% instead. The EU will face 15% tariffs, half the rate Trump had threatened. Trading Blackwood charge US firms 0% duty on certain products, subject to approval by its 27 member states. Yeah, I mean, so I agree with that form of feminism, but seeing what feminism has turned into today, I think is an abomination of what it was before, and I think it's bad for humanity. Even bad for women. That's fine. You don't have to get into anything you don't want to. But I've seen online debates about feminism, and a lot of these self-avowed feminists, and they call themselves feminists, are very, very, very anti-man. What is today's version of feminism? Actual feminism? Well, there's a lot of people who call themselves feminists, but hold much different views than, for example, like 1930s, 1920s, 1940s feminists. So, I feel like feminism is an ever evolving term because it's changed its shape a lot since it's begun. Like, I do think women should have the right to vote, but I do think that they should have to sign up for the draft. And there's many feminists who don't believe that. And again, that's putting women above men so they can vote to send men to war, but then they don't have to do it themselves. Because I'm going to have to fight for a war that I didn't vote for, but a bunch of feminists did. And then they don't have to fight for that war. And I also agree with you on that, Storm, that it has made our economy look a lot different by essentially, to a degree, I'm not going to say necessarily, but forcing women to work. Because everything's gotten more expensive due to more people having jobs. And there's a lot of women that I know that would prefer to be a stay-at-home mom, but are unable to thanks to how high prices are and also the pressure that they feel to have a job. Yeah, I agree with that, Bill. And we all want what's best for the United States. We all want what's best for humanity. Just we have different views about it, and that's why it's important that we talk about it. That's why I like that you're disagreeing with me, because now we have the chance to talk about it. We have the chance to come together instead of the chance to be divided against each other. Let's see if there's any new news. Check this out. And it says left-wing extremism helped lead to Charlie Kirk's killing. I like how it says he did the music stop? Oh yeah, the music stopped. I didn't even notice. Sorry if y'all were jamming out to it. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that, Bill.
And we must do it. If we don't control insiders, this will be over and over. To lead by an A, big fat love, find common ground, to halt the spread of lies, and we must do it big.
Yeah, I definitely think that we need to look more at the core of people's arguments. Why is this person saying what they're saying instead of just focusing on oh, they said something that I disagree with, and therefore they're racist, they're anti-woman, etc. Because I personally, I support women a lot. I think that they should have equal rights to men. I think that, you know, I encourage a woman to get a job if she wants a job. But I also hold the values of a woman should be able to be a stay-at-home mom if she wants to be. I hold the values that child custody court should be more equal. Yeah, definitely. I find this funny though. It says JD Vance hosted Charlie Kirk's podcast on Monday. Today is Monday. Happened just today. Yeah, 100% they should have to sign up for the draft. I actually think that for voting rights, it should be nobody's allowed to vote unless you sign up for the draft, men or women. I think if you want the right to vote, you have to be willing to put yourself on the battlefield. Because I don't think it's fair for people to vote for war that they'll never have to be involved in. Yeah, I want to protect women too, but I just don't think you should be voting to send a group of people to die if you're not part of that group. If we didn't have things about war and stuff, then it would be a much different. Like if the draft never existed, for example. Well, Belle, to be fair, you don't need Storm's protection, but you do need the United States protection. Truth be told, before the incident, I had no idea who Charlie was. That led me down a rabbit hole, and I learned more about his debates. I found him interesting, and he reminded me of Candace Owens. Yeah, that's great, and that's something that I find amazing. Like, yes, it's a sad event that happened, a very, very sad event, but that is one good thing that came out of it is his voice is louder than ever. They tried to silence him, and they completely failed. Goro. Goro would be the first person called into the draft. I just think that if you want to have the right to vote on war, then you should be able to be signed up for war. Goro can't even sign up for the debate for the draft, but she's the first one to be drafted. I mean, everybody has flaws. You're not always gonna 100% of the time be a perfect person, but I think Charlie was a very good person more than he was a bad person. And I'd say 90% of the time he was a very good person, at least. Let's read through this story. Exactly. At the end, we all make mistakes, we all mess up, and you shouldn't be shot for the mistakes you make. I think everybody in this chat, every normal person can agree to that. taken off. Well, let me give you a promotion, by the way. Yeah, just so you mods know, people can say pretty much whatever they want, just not incitements to violence and not like being mean to each other. Like, I don't want people calling each other names or nothing. But I love the disagreement going on in chat. I like that. But I don't want Storm calling Bell names, for example, you know? Which I don't think he would, but... Of course, we need to make sure that the killer is brought to justice, Vance said. And importantly, we have to talk about this incredibly destructive movement on the left-wing extremism that has grown up over the last few years. And I believe is part of the reason why Charlie was killed by an assassin's bullet. I mean, you can call yourselves names if you really want. I just don't support it. I think you should call yourselves beautiful and amazing. Since Kirk was fatally shot at a college campus event in Utah, Trump and top officials have sought to predominantly blame the radical left for political violence in this country, despite attacks against both the Democrats and Republicans in recent years. This song is crazy. FBI co-deputy director Dan Bongino said that the suspect arrested had an obsession with the conservative influencer based on the alleged shooter's digital footprint. He was tracking Kirk's events and public appearances through open-sourced information on the internet, according to law enforcement officials familiar with the investigation. Trust me, Belle, we all know. I'm just kidding. He said he became much more political before the shooting, and the motivation was not clear. Well, I think Bumpkin is okay. As long as he's not calling you a bitch like you called yourself. Vance and White House Stephen Miller on the show described how the administration intends to take action against the groups they say are responsible. I mean, I think one of the biggest groups responsible for inspiring political violence is the mainstream media. Calling people Nazis, calling people Hitler. I think that is the biggest reason why something like this happened. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I believe at least. We're going to go after the NGO network that foments, facilitates, and engages in violence. That's not okay. Violence is not okay in our system, and we want to make it less likely that it happens. This is not a both sides problem. If both sides have a problem, then one side is much bigger and malignant problem. That is the truth. Says JD Van. Miller, who was on Fox News last month, called the Democratic Party a domestic extremist organization. That the administration is going to channel all of the anger we have over the organized campaign that led to this assassination to uproot and dismantle these terrorist networks. I mean, I think that's where it's getting a little bit dangerous, calling the entire political party terrorists. Or calling the entire political party, I should say, an extremist organization, but definitely parts of them are extremists. All right, have a good day at work, Bell. Sorry to make you unproductive. But yeah, I mean, I definitely support the immediate expulsion of all of the Congress members who were booing the moment of silence for Charlie Kirk, and booing the prayers that they wanted to have, because those are extremists. But I think it's very dangerous to call the entire Democratic Party an extremist organization. But I personally think that calling the whole party an extremist organization is similar, definitely different, but similar to calling Charlie Kirk Hitler or a Nazi, for example. It's a vast domestic terror movement, and with God as my witness, we are going to use every resource we have at the DOJ, Homeland Security, and throughout the government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks that make America safe. Oh, and make America safe again for the American people. It will happen, and we will do it in Charlie's name. I really didn't point any specific groups. Well, it says just up here that he pointed to the Democratic Party, so I think that is a group, but okay. Fox News Hannity last Friday, Miller suggested the government could pursue charges under RICO or conspiracy charges against certain groups. Yeah, I heard that they're going to be going after George Soros for RICO. Trump on Sunday suggested his government was already working to follow through on his vow to target those he claims to contribute to political violence. Already under a major investigation. A lot of the people that you would traditionally say are on the left already under investigation. Trump, the president, however, provided no additional details, and it's unclear what steps may have been taken for the administration. The Justice Department has yet to announce any probes into the matter. Yeah, Charlie stood for conservatism as well as Christianity, which you see often go hand in hand. It's more, I'm not saying nobody on the left is a Christian, but it's more rare for people on the left to be Christian. Many prominent conservative figures have called for punishment for people who say they mocked or celebrated his death online. I agree with that. Some instances have been recorded of institutions or companies firing workers who allegedly posted such sentiments on social media. And I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with you, Birdie. And I agree with this as well. When you see someone celebrating Charlie's murder, call them out, and hell, call their employer, Vance said. You shouldn't be celebrating anybody's death. I don't care who it is. Nobody deserves to die. Gotta shine the light of truth like a torch to honor Kirk's memory. You can report people on Twitch and YouTube for sure. I don't know about calling them. But. And if, for example, if you can't report a specific video, you can report their entire account. Well, I'm glad that I encouraged some discussion in chat today. Big shout out to Belle for having an opposing opinion and having the courage to speak about it. That's very brave on her part, and very, like, I support that a lot. Very much like that she came in here and said different things. Thanks to everybody else for having, you know, good discussions about what we were talking about today. But it's time for me to head out. I need to eat lunch and see my family. So thank you guys all for coming by. I very much enjoyed hanging out with you guys. It was a blast. And hopefully I'll be doing another one of these soon. So thanks for coming by, guys. Make sure to like the stream if you could, please. And then hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye, boys.